Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Trisha. You've all talked to me previously. I'm gonna send you over to Martha for a welcome.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome to what we hope will be a fairly short meeting. I am, a longtime member of the, just lost my voice, longtime member of the board, longtime member and co-chair of the grants committee. And so I'm delighted to welcome everybody here today to talk about our first use of Submittable, our software in the community arts grant process. And we're so delighted to have a bunch of you here, about 20 of you here. So hopefully we'll look forward to reading your proposals. What I want to do is introduce the members of the Arts Council who are here with you and welcome you all, say hi to some of you whom I know. And then we're going to go through the guidelines process and the application process to make sure everybody knows what we're doing. As I said, it's our first time on Submittable, which is a brand new software that we introduced earlier this year, I guess it was actually during this fiscal year. And it makes life much easier for you and for us to use the software. So first of all, Tricia Sanborn, raise your hand, please, Trish. She is one of our 3 employees, a key person who's been working with the new software since its beginning, introduced us to it. And on the other person from the Arts Council is our very important McKenna Kennedy, raise your hand, please, who handles all of our activities that aren't dealt with by our fearless leader, April Nyman, who's engaged elsewhere today. Her daughter just got married over the weekend, and Tricia. So the 3 of us are here from the Arts Council. We're willing to help. And I want to have Tricia start us off understanding what this new software is and what our guidelines are for this year. Any questions before we start?
Good. Hi, everybody. I hope you've all had the opportunity to look at the software. If you have not, and you are a previous grantee, please note that you need to set up a new account. I have heard from a number of people who are trying to use the Go Grants login credentials on the Submittable software, and that is not going to work for you. So to get started, I'm going to share my screen, and we are going, bear with me. First, you're going to go to the acaac.org, and you will click on, sorry, hang on one sec while I.
Well, she's setting us up. Let me just say, this is Martha. Let me just say that I think it's really important as we go through this that everyone here, particularly those of you who are new, understand the importance that the Arts Council of Anne Arundel County pays to the issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. We started this program in intense program last year as a starter. For those of you who submitted last year, you're aware of it. For those of you who are new, we will be asking, and Tricia will go through this, we'll be asking you questions about how you're addressing these issues, and we will be using a scoring system that takes that into account this year. So I just wanted to make that important point, and Trish, I turn it back to you.
Okay. Everybody, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at the guidelines, but please read them in detail. I'm just going to go over them very quickly and touch on a couple of points that are very important for you. We have an overview at the beginning, the goals of the program, our ACAAC Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Statement, which we have taken to heart and you'll see reflected throughout the application. Here we have our timeline. As you probably know, the applications have already opened. They will be open until the 30th, and they'll close at midnight that night. We anticipate that you will have your award letter or denial by June 15th. And we are now doing contracts on DocuSign. No more old PDFs that you had to take a picture of and send back. It's become a much more streamlined process for us. And we're keeping the time frame on the payments the same. It's 50% on or before October 15th and another 50% on or before March 15th. As always, contingent upon receipt of the interim report. Final reports will be due in August of 2023 for this cycle. In terms for eligibility, the program has stayed the same. This is available to 501c3s only. You have to either be based in or have a significant physical presence in Anne Arundel County. You have to have been in operation for at least 1 year under the supervision of a board and be able to document good standing with Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation at the time of application. And we do check again at times when of payment. So I go through again, just to make sure that you're up to date. There are 2 types of grants available. For those of you, and I know there are a few in the audience that have not previously received a community arts grant, you can apply for a founding grant of up to $2,500. There is also a second funding stream, and that is for current grantees. And your request should be in line with what you have previously requested. Okay, in terms of the application itself, I do have some best practices here that I really want you to make sure that you follow. The person that is your primary contact on the application will be the person that I am communicating with throughout the year. So this may not be your executive director. It's going to be the person that is completing your reports, that is responsible for getting me any changes in banking information, etc. I recommend that you review the rubric at the end, which we'll look at a little bit later, and really use that as a lens to focus your application. I'm going to show you the invite collaborators function, and I highly recommend again that you use that because it will make the application process much easier, especially for organizations that have more than one person supplying information for the application. I also recommend that you do your application in Word before you do it in the form, and then cut and paste back into the form. That way you can check on formatting, capitalization, you can make all your corrections there, and then put
Trish, what do you do if you're like me, if you're an Apple or Mac user, because we can't work in Word, we have to work in, so should we translate it into Word before we cut and paste? We can do that.
I'm pretty sure you can cut and paste directly in.
Okay.
So
well,
I think it's available for both, for all.
Okay. All right.
So here we have some grant requirements. There is the logo recognition requirements that we have on our website, but this is a handy place to refer to if you need to look those over. And then the reporting requirements for the interim and the final report. Our accessibility guidelines align with those for the Maryland State Arts Councils. So please read this through. There's a yes or no question in the application that you'll see, and it will ask whether you comply with this, and if not, why not, and what you're doing to correct the situation. Here's your review process and notification. All our grants are read by every member of our board grants committee that Martha leads up. And then they're discussed as a committee before the final scoring and funding recommendations are made. Here we have your conflict of interest, policy for the organization, and your appeals process in case you choose to appeal the determination on your grant. You can read all that, so I'm not going to go into it. Here's the rubric that I mentioned. Please read this. Read this and understand it, because this is how your application is scored. The application is divided up into 4 basic sections. We have organization information, programming, then outreach and community impact, and then the request and the financials. All of these four parts of the application are equally scored. So anybody have any questions on the guidelines? We can go back to the rubric after we've looked at the application. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand, or there's a small enough group that you can just shout out. So I guess not. So let's go ahead and take a look at the application. Hang on. I'm still not the most Zoom savvy person going. All right, can you guys see our website?
Yeah, don't forget we're having a gala on the 14th of May, so please look at our website and think about coming and bringing your colleagues. That's how we can raise money to support you.
When you're looking at our website, there you go, there's the gala. There's our paint the town party. So just grants is one of the major tabs up at top. You can either go directly to the Submittable portal, or you can go to grant opportunities. Here on grant opportunities, you'll have an overview of grants. Again, a general link to the Submittable portal, and then each of the grants. If you want to watch this video again, we will have a link here to the recording that will enable you to see it again. Here you can access the guidelines that we just went through, and then on the apply button, it takes you again to our Submittable page. So to apply for the Community Arts Grant, click on the apply. And again, if you have not set up an account in Submittable, which we've only been using since about August last year, you will need to do so. As you look at the top of the application, you can check out the guidelines again. And here's that magic invite collaborators button that I recommend that you all bring in your coworkers on that will be working on the grant with you. Basically what that does is you enter an email. It will send them an email saying that they have access to the application. And yes, they can change it, but they cannot submit. Only the person that created the application can submit. And you can invite up to 3 people to help you on it. Here at the beginning of the application, we have the basic demographic information, your website, your social media handles. Here is your primary contact, who will be the person that I communicate with throughout the year. A secondary contact, in case you want someone else to be able to receive the information about the grant, the reporting, etc. Then the first of the 4 big parts of the organization, of the application's organization. So this is organization information, breakdown on your number of employees, your number of part-time employees. We ask for a demographic breakdown on your employees. And one key to this is put a 0 in any field that you are leaving empty. And that way there's 0 chance that your budget is going to go awry, or not your budget, your table. So I'll put that in the best practices too. Then we get down into volunteers, number of volunteer hours, board members. We're going to ask for a list later, but right here, all we're asking for is demographics by number of board members that self-identify as white, Caucasian, European, Black, African, African-American, etc. Strategic plan. If you have a strategic plan in place, just let us know and you'll be asked to upload it later in the application. Whether you do or don't have an application, please summarize your key goals for the next.
You mean strategic plan?
Yes, yeah, sorry. Yeah, if you do or do not, I'm not used to talking this much. If you do or do not have a strategic plan, please go ahead and just summarize your strategic goals here. Now you'll notice that this is a pretty important part. This will be in the rubric, and you'll see that we are really looking to see what kind of effort has been put into planning for the organization. Do you have a DEIA statement in place? Yes? We ask you to put it in here.
And part of the reason that we're taking a census of this question is that we're trying to figure out what our DEI assistance program should be. You know, we've already started a series of programs that some of you may have been at, and we have several more elections scheduled, but that's this year's program. So we're still trying to determine what assistance our grantees need so that we can help improve their own access to information about DEI for those organizations that feel that that's an important goal.
Thank you, Martha. Here's part 2. We get into programming. What type of arts do you provide to the community? If you check the other box, you will have a box open up where you can add. Describe last year's programming, including virtual programming. You can bullet point this. You can give us dates, etc. Any kind of information you want to or can provide about it. Again, this is similar, except we're looking at between July 1, 2022 and June 30, 2023, which is basically the performance period of this grant. One of the things we saw during COVID especially was the level of creativity and innovation in the arts in the county. Let us know what you did that was new, creative, exciting, whether you're going to continue it, and we'd like to share that. Here's the question about the standards for accessibility that we looked at in the guidelines. If you press yes, great. If you press no, you need to explain why not and how you're working to make your programming accessible to all residents of the county. Here we're looking for the impact and outcomes of your organization. List up to 5 clear metrics that you use to determine the success of your programming. We will ask for this in both the interim reports and the final reports and the measures of your metrics. The third section is outreach and community impact. Here we ask you to delve into your marketing. Who are you trying to reach and how are you trying to reach them? And we're really going to look at, are you using the right methods to reach them? I mean, if you're trying to reach, for example, an older population, they're not necessarily going to be on TikTok. So is your marketing targeted in the right way for the right group? How do you measure your annual audience? And this is one of those questions that every organization is going to have a completely different answer to. If you do performances, it can be audience members, but if you say the symphony also has the academy. So they're teaching students at the same time. And you can break it down, you know, by audience, by students, by school outreach programs, etc. If you have questions on that, you can always call me. What was your total annual audience? And here we want a number. Here's you're going to aggregate. Here you're going to aggregate those numbers.
Do you want those answers in percentage or in whole numbers?
This needs to be a whole number.
Okay.
Okay, how you divvy it up within the methodology question is really up to you. As long as it's understandable and it's clear and we can look at it, you know, we can take this number and translate it. Racial and ethnic demographic of your audience. At this point in time, you may not be able to measure it exactly, but you can probably take a pretty good estimate. And here this should equal 100 because we are asking percentages here.
Oh, it is percentage. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. What demographic groups are in your audience? You can check all that apply. Partnerships. Partnerships are huge. Partnerships are a big positive, and we really are seeing that partnerships are the key to reaching bigger and broader audiences. We want to know who you're partnering with, and exactly how those what each partner brings to that partnership. Here we ask you to delve into what you've been doing to expand DEI in your organization. Policies that you have in place. And
Tricia?
yeah. Hi, Angela.
Hi, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Do your partners have to be in Anne Arundel County?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Well, your partners don't, but we would hope that your audience is principally Anne Arundel County.
Yeah, your programming and your audience is in Anne Arundel County, but you might have a partner in another county that wants to help you with your programming.
Absolutely. Good.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And by the way, we have to do that because the Maryland State Arts Council expects us to be focused on Anne Arundel County, but that doesn't mean that we can't have performers from outside of the county. It's just that our goal is to try and provide the state's perspective on activities for Anne Arundel County residents.
Right. Right.
How about out-of-state partners?
Absolutely. Bring everybody in.
The more the merrier. So, here you're going to outline your DEIA policies and procedures that you have in place, efforts you've undertaken in the last 2 years to advance DEIA, and what efforts you'll be undertaking in the next 1 to 2 years to advance DEIA. Like Martha said, we have started some really fabulous programming with the Chesapeake Arts Center and Angela, who we just heard from the Angel Wing Project. And we have a relatively monthly conversation about DEIA and the arts in Anne Arundel County. I'm going to be adding the resources, the recordings for the last 3 of these sessions to the resources for this grant. And I highly recommend, again, that you listen to all of them. They're about an hour long, but you'll get a lot of insight and a lot of information, and it will help you to complete this application. Also, while I'm talking about that, mark your calendars for August 18th. We are going to be doing the first DEIA conference for the county about DEIA and the arts in Anne Arundel County conference at the Chesapeake Arts Center that day. These are free resources. There is no reason that cost has to be an issue in terms of advancing DEIA in your organization. We welcome your board members, your staff, your volunteers, your audience to participate in all of these calls and the event on August 18th. So here you go. Here's your reminder. I can't plug it enough. So we are asking for a budget. What have you spent? And it's okay to spend zero if you're doing no cost things like attending our events, if you're attending MSAC webinars and conferences. We're just looking to see if you have committed time and or financial resources toward a DEI goal. The last of the big sections for the grant is financials. Again, we talked about this. Which type of grant are you applying for? Either a founding grant or a general operating grant. The amount of your request, if it's a founding grant, you're capped at $2,500. If it's a recurring grant, again, it should be in line with your previous awards. Total organization budget.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, I'm not certain. We may have gotten a grant in the past. I'm relatively new, but it's been a while. So do we have to go back to the founding grant or not?
You are a grantee. In
Okay,
the past, we have made awards to Encore.
okay,
That's where you were. Yeah.
okay. And you talk about what has been done before. What's the range been on these? Is it vary greatly? Is there a limit?
It varies extremely greatly.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, that might be a question for you, Martha.
Yeah, I think it ranges from, some groups have asked for no more than $2,000, even though they're no longer a founding grantee, and that's what they feel they need for their program. And we have grantees that, you know, ask for $50,000 or $60,000, and we can get some that ask for huge amounts of money, which is, you know, half of our budget, and we can't fund them at that level.
Right,
We don't have
right.
that kind of money. And do we know what our total budget is this year yet?
It has not been finalized, but it will be somewhere in the area of $600,000 distributed to approximately 40 to 45 organizations.
Or maybe more this year, because we've got some new organizations. We're trying to reach as many groups as we can in the county. And we have had a small increase this year. And we hope that we will have increases in the next few years. But for a number of years, we had growing number of grantees, the same amount of money available. So we're hoping we'll be a little bit richer this year to give away. Our goal is to give away that money. That's our job.
Thank you.
Tricia, this is Angela again.
Sure.
You said your amount has to be in line with what it was, you know, what it's been in previous years. I mean, if you can clearly show an additional need that you didn't have before, then obviously it's going to be maybe a little more than you asked for before. But if you can clearly demonstrate that need, that's fine, right?
Absolutely.
That is correct. And I will say that the Chesapeake Arts Center in 2022 was our largest grantee. That was not the case when I joined the grants committee 7 or 8 years ago. So, I mean, things change. And we pay attention to what you write, and people move and expand, and we want to see that happen.
Just so you know, at some point in the next few years, we are going to try to kind of develop some kind of a framework around asks, but we are not there right now. So when I say take in mind what you asked for previously, I mean, it's highly unlikely we'll be able to give you triple what you got. in 2022. But if you're showing really, like Angela, I know you do a great job with programming, and you're doing a lot in the community, et cetera. So I would recommend that you ask for more than you did last year.
As a grants committee member, basically, we're just looking to make sure that your proposal supports what your request is. If you know, as much information as you can give us and show why your request is appropriate, we're eager to read that and to make decisions accordingly. And we have a variety of different views and members on this committee. So, you know, we have to merge at what everyone thinks.
I have a question.
Sure.
In our case, we have no paid employees, and one of the things we're considering in the future is to add a paid employee. So that would be a case in which I hope the committee would look at our increased request favorably, because we've never had a paid employee in the past.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course, you have to explain why you're moving away from solidly depending on volunteers to hiring a person, and how your increase relates to that.
Yeah. And the other question is, last year was still a very strange year as far as programming goes. And since we're outdoors under the stars in the summertime, any numbers we put into this application are not going to reflect what we normally do, which when we have a full season. So I presume we just find a paragraph somewhere to explain why we had so few people in the audience last year, when in fact we didn't have a full season.
Yeah, Carolyn, there is a previous year's programming section in part 2. I would use that to explain that.
Okay.
You know, people are going to be reading it fully through, so they're going to be getting the full picture of what you did last year. They're not just going to be comparing your budget to budget with other organizations. They're going to be looking at you holistically.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And it's also important that you tell us what it is that you are planning to do or have done and will continue or discontinue, and not you know, a discussion of a bunch of ideas that you might or might not pursue. I mean, we need more than just a theoretical discussion. We want to know clearly what it is that your intention is, so that we can try and support you.
So looking at the budget, we do ask for the 2023 budgeted income, but I know a lot of you are on a calendar year. If you're on a calendar year, use 2022. So that should be helpful.
That instruction is in there, right?
Yeah, it is. It's in the guidance, and I think I have it up here. Use your organization's 2022 budget if you operate on a calendar year. So again, with this budget, these tables will work really, really well if you fill out a 0 in each empty space, and if you save before you submit. That's another recommendation. Please go back and look at your budgets and make sure they're totaling. Please also don't put text in these sections, because it will not add if you say like around 20,000 in there. Just put whole numbers in here and it will add up, and they'll work the way they were supposed to. Now down here you have some blank lines where you can fill in additional buckets, which is what these are. They're really just big buckets of money, of where you put your income and your expenses. Hi, Patsy. You had a
Hi,
question?
Trish. Hi. Yes, a question. The save feature. can you show me the save feature again? Because I was working on this application this morning and it kept coming up with draft save. Is it an automatic save or you have to, it's at the bottom?
There is
Oh.
an automatic save, but if you look down here at the very, very bottom under the electronic signature, there's a save draft.
So you have to go to, if you are working on it in sections, you need to go to the last page then to find that to save yourself.
It does have some kind of a logarithmic, it will save every 15 minutes or
Yes.
something like that.
Yes.
But I highly recommend that you go to the bottom, you save the draft, and then look at your budgets to make sure they added up correctly.
Okay.
Don't put commas, don't put decimal points. Just keep it whole numbers, please. Okay. I'm just going to go back up here. Okay, so we just did income. Now we're looking at expenses. We do divide expenses into two big buckets, administrative and programmatic. And within the administrative, you'll also see we have DEI initiatives. That should match up with the DEI initiatives that you had earlier in your application. So for those of you that aren't used to completing grants, one key is to have your income and your expenses equal. It's just a basic rule of grant writing. They should be balanced. Okay. One thing I wanted to go back and show you in income. You're going to see grants received. That would be if you received a grant for this year. If you did not, it would be 0. And then your request, if you're a founding grant, will be over here. Okay, you cannot fill these 2 boxes, but the rest you can. Yeah, it just popped up draft saved.
And that would be any grant money. So for instance, if you received state or like a shuttered venue grant, that would be any grant or just grants from you all?
This is ACA.
Oh, I see it. I see it.
Request. Federal, if you received shuttered venue, I think.
Oh, I see. Never mind. I see it.
That would go, any COVID relief that you got this year would go either into federal or state or us.
I see it. Thank you.
Or other county grants down below.
Right,
Because there are county grants that some people have received.
right.
Okay.
These
Okay.
are just big buckets. We're not like in the weeds on the budget. We just want to see what part of your budget comes from ticket sales or membership fees or whatever the category is. And again, back to expenses. This will all add up down here. And again, make sure it's all adding up and make sure you didn't accidentally put a period or a comma in. In terms of in-kind donations, please go ahead and itemize what you receive. And yes, you can include volunteer hours. This is the Maryland equivalency of volunteer hours, 31.29. So please make sure that you include those, because having a strong volunteer base is a pretty important thing. Getting down here, we're going to look at the percentage of your organization's income that is spent on administration and fundraising. This is taken directly out of the Maryland nonprofit qualification. So if you have any questions, just read this thoroughly. You can take it off your 990 or your COF 85. You shouldn't have a problem with that. There are organizations down here that are going to be over 25% just because of the nature of their mission. As long as you explain it thoroughly, we just need an understanding of it. Sorry, I'm not good at scrolling this. All right, after the financial section, we have one more section, which is the additional documentation. We need a list of your current board of directors and organizational leadership. That should have title, name, email address, and affiliations. Someone just came in. We need your tax return, or otherwise known as, for most of you, a 990, some of you might be using a COF 85. Your financial documentation. If you're over $100,000, it should be, or over 250, it should be an audited financial statement. It should be a reviewed financial statement between 100 and 200 and almost 250, and a budget versus actual report from your accounting software for less organizations with an annual budget of less than 100,000. Here, you're going to provide proof of good standing with the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation. Honestly, a screenshot is fine. You do not have to buy a certificate. Patsy, you had a question? Patsy?
No, my hand was just up. Let me take that down.
Oh, okay, it just popped up.
Let me take that down. I'm clear on what's required.
Okay, great. All right. And down here, you can upload additional support items. There is the opportunity to include up to 3 down here.
And by the way, some people sometimes include a short video of something or pictures, photos. That's fine. We love to look at them.
Yeah.
So feel free.
If you look down here, you can, I've got it set so you can send almost any version of video, almost any version of photo. If you want to put photos into, like a PDF, you can put lots of them in there. Anything you want to include to tell your story, your organization's story. So coming down here, we have a new little thing that we can now ask your banking information through Submittable, which is, for us, has been terrific. This is totally encrypted. I am the only person that will be able to see your banking information. It will not go forward to the reviewers. Do not fill this in if you already have banking information on file with us and it is correct. If it's changed though, or if you're new to our grant processes, then you'll need to complete that section. And then the last thing is your electronic signature, and we're good to go. Anybody have any questions on the application? Not seeing any.
I have a question.
Sure.
You said that you don't need a Maryland certificate of good standing.
You don't necessarily need the certificate. We're perfectly happy with the screenshot. It tells us the same thing and doesn't cost anything.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
If you take a screenshot,
A picture, a photo. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. If you take
screenshot
a photo of that page, it's as good as the certificate. We don't want you to have that expense.
In other words, just take a photo if you have a smartphone, and you can upload it to this file.
All right, you need one, but you don't need the paper copy, is that it?
Well, when you're looking at the determination, when you've gone to the website and looked at the determination, it's going to say that you're in good standing. We're happy with a picture of that. But if you go to get a certificate, I think it costs you $10 or $15 or something like that.
But they charge $40 to
Okay, 40.
40.
Yeah, we don't need the actual certificate. If you take a picture of the determination on the website, we're good with that.
I'll send you an email. My hearing's not good.
Okay, I can help you with that. That's not a problem.
All right.
So. Anyone else have any questions? I do want to add one last reminder for those of you that are currently community arts grantees for 2022, and that's that our Go Grant software will be sunsetting July 1, and we will no longer have access to it. I have reminded you throughout the year that we're going to ask you for your final report early this year. It's going to be due June 28th, and there is no wiggle room on that. You need to get that report to me by then. I'll have it up and open by June 1. So just remember that to be funded through this grant, you have to get that report into me by June 28th.
Okay, I think you meant to correct yourself. Do you want to have it uploaded before July 1 or June? Because you said it should be in by June 28th.
It has to be in by June 28th.
And it'll be uploaded on the old software by before July 1. Is that what you meant?
Well, we don't have the software after July 1. So I need a couple of days to get them off and make sure. So June 28th, it's 2 months earlier than usual, but we need you to help out with that. So
I'm so sorry, Ms. Hemord, I have one question.
sure.
Quickly, this is to follow up from our conversation about we have 2 events that each have their own budget.
Mhm.
And I know that we had spoken about utilizing the ability to upload the documentation. When I'm filling out the form in the portal, do you want the expenses expected to be for both, which would be different from last year, because last year we had only 1 festival and this year we will have 2?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
So think about the budget being for the entire organization.
Okay.
Since you've got, and if you break it down on a big scale, you're running 2 different programs.
Mhm.
You can separate those out and do those as one of the additional uploads.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, thank you all. You know, you always know that you can reach me. You know what my email is. My phone number is on my email. It's on our website. If you have questions, feel free to reach out.